Thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate your time. I want to tell you and your family about my husband's heart attack. I want to tell you in more detail because it's the motivation for this entire program. Yes, his heart attack started us on this journey, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to make adjustments to our lifestyle before it was too late. It was April 2005, a slushy, snowy, cold spring in Colorado. When I came downstairs early one Saturday morning, I noticed he was dressed and sitting on the couch, looking upset, in pain, sort of pasty and weird. This was very unusual. He said he felt sweaty and clammy. He didn't feel well at all. Besides being amazed I'd slept through all that, I was really alarmed. He said, "I wonder if there's something wrong. Should I go to urgent care?" I said, "Of course not. We're going to go to the ER." It still was early and the ER wasn't crowded. Howard explained how he felt to the receptionist, and wow, things started to happen. It was like on TV. Everybody whipped into super high gear. I tried to stay out of the way as all sorts of medical technicians and professionals ran in and out of the room. It was terrifying. Finally, after a bunch of tests, we heard the news that yes, he'd had a heart attack. We recalled that Howard's father, Harry, had had a heart attack, and 3 weeks later had a second heart attack and died. I tried to push my terror away to focus on Howard. To make a long story short, he had severely blocked arteries, and they wanted to put in 4 stents to keep his arteries open. Okay? He had the surgeries a few days later, which went well. He received excellent care, and we all felt a lot calmer. But then, he had terrible adverse reactions to the statin medication Lipitor. The doctor said he'd have to remain on Lipitor, statin medication, for the rest of his life. But the medication made his body hurt all over. He was in agony. Even after reducing the dose by half, he was miserable and in severe pain. He felt worse on the drugs than he did having the heart attack. What was he going to do? Was he going to die in a couple of weeks like his dad? Late one night, he was online and found this book, just published by Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, who you'll learn about in a few minutes. The book, Reverse and Prevent Heart Disease, saved Howard's life. He decided he would eat his medicine and only eat foods that wouldn't clog his arteries. Now, to understand what a big deal this was, you have to understand that Howard was a super traditional eater. Every dinner had to be meat-based, lunch had to be meat and cheese-based. He ate full-fat ice cream daily, chips, soda, cookies, and candy. Basically, anything and everything, all day, every day. He was always athletic, though, and always slim. Eating only plants was major. He told his doctor he wouldn't take the medication and would only eat food that didn't clog his arteries, and that food was going to be his medicine. The first doctor was furious and refused to treat him. Howard found another cardiologist who was thrilled to have a patient so dedicated and committed to a healthy plant-based lifestyle. Soon, Howard's every 3-month blood tests became every 6 months, and then annually, because his numbers were so good. It worked! That's why we're here today. Now, over 10 years later, Howard's going strong. He's super healthy, never gets sick, works out in the gym 3 times a week, plus walks the dogs at least once a day. He has incredible energy. His remarkable story has led us to share this knowledge with you. Please learn from our experience that yes, you can escape heart disease. You can feel better. You can add life to your years and years to your life. This presentation, entitled Nutritional Implications of Heart Diseases, will cover the topics of first, a brief overview on the causes of heart disease, then pioneering physicians of modern medicine, like Dr. Esselstyn, blue zones around the world, a formula to escape heart disease, which is a discussion of diet versus drugs, and the SAD, the standard American diet, which we call SAD, versus the whole food plant-based diet. This presentation is just under an hour. I'll come back on 3 times during the sessions to highlight important points. It's always helpful to review the questions for reflection and discussion first before we begin, so that your brain is activated and ready for learning new information. After the session, please go back to the questions for reflection and discussion. Write in your notebooks or talk among yourselves. The important thing is to think about and engage with the material for deeper comprehension. Now, get your family all ready, grab a healthy snack, a glass of water, your notebooks, and let's go. Let's start out with a little pre-knowledge quiz. What are some of the top leading causes of death in the United States? Now don't freak out. Most likely you already know this, but it's a good way to get your brain pre-wired and prepared for the upcoming information. Okay, now think, what are some of the worst diseases? List them off in your mind or on scratch paper. I'll wait no more than 10 seconds. All right, are you ready for quiz answers? The 4 major diseases we will discuss in these presentations include: number 1, heart disease. 600,000 people die each year. Half the victims die without any warnings. 2, cancers. 4, stroke. 7, diabetes. Please note that all the conditions that have an asterisk after them indicate a strong scientific link to nutrition. I bet you did a great job and you are 100% correct. A+ to you. Just to clarify how important your heart is, the human heart is an organ that pumps blood throughout your body from inside your brain to the tips of your toes via the circulatory blood system. The heart and circulatory system supply oxygen and nutrients to your tissues and remove carbon dioxide and other wastes. Since heart disease is so common, and one of the major reasons for this program, I want to quote Dr. Greger, who puts it very clearly. He says, "No matter where we live, how old we are, or what we look like, health researchers have discovered that 90% of having a first heart attack can be attributed to 9 modifiable risk factors. The 9 factors that we could change that can save our lives include smoking, too much bad cholesterol, high blood pressure, diabetes, abdominal obesity, high levels of stress, a lack of daily fruit and veggies, as well as a lack of daily exercise." Incidentally, there's a lot of conflicting and confusing information about other types of diets that claim to be heart healthy. Ask yourself, has the author done the research to support their claims, promotions, and advertising? Is the author a qualified researcher or have academic training and qualifications to back up their work? Many times they've not. The sources I use all have done their research, and the results are based upon peer-reviewed scientific evidence, not opinions. As an educator, I'm concerned about where information comes from. The physicians and researchers I use for my information are well-respected doctors and scientists with long histories of publications and accomplishments. As an educator, I'm interested in peer-reviewed scientific evidence. I'm interested in non-industry, non-commercial research. For example, when a tobacco company does research and declares that smoking is A-OK, you know those are bogus results. There are many people capitalizing on diet fads and faulty research. Aside from those leading causes of death in the previous slide, sadly, many Americans also suffer from other chronic degenerative diseases such as obesity. Now about 2/3 of adults are overweight and 1/3 of those adults are obese. Rates for children are equally shocking. osteoporosis, which is a weakening of our bones, chronic pain, and hypertension or high blood pressure, a leading indicator of heart diseases. Because it's so important and there is so much information, we'll talk about obesity and diabetes in the second session. Obesity is a big problem for many of us, no pun intended. It is a driving force for me to stay motivated. I have fears of what could happen if I wasn't careful about what I ate. I was a fat kid, teenager, and young woman. My weight was a real burden, so I know how it feels. I was teased for being fat and felt terrible about my weight for many years. All these diseases are the result of a lifetime of hits or bad habits, which is why medical events and things typically start to happen when we reach middle age. However, now, tragically, medical events and things are happening more and more to younger people. This is a new phenomenon, and doctors are very concerned. If you have young people in your network who are not fit and healthy, you might be concerned too. You can help them get on the road to recovery with these presentations. Typically, it takes years for chronic conditions to appear and just months to alleviate them. It's never too late to get healthy. We've gone over a lot already. Now keep in mind that health researchers have discovered that 90% of having a first heart attack can be attributed to 9 modifiable risk factors. This means that heart diseases can be reversed and prevented. The fact that we can change can save our lives. Now, these risk factors include smoking, too much bad cholesterol, high blood pressure, diabetes, abdominal obesity, stress, a lack of daily fruit, a lack of daily vegetables, as well as a lack of daily exercise. All of this can be easily changed with a healthy lifestyle and plant-based nutrition, which we continue to talk about in each of these sessions. Next up, we're going to discuss how some big food corporations want to instill doubt in consumers and the amazing pioneering physicians who have changed the way we can treat heart diseases and other chronic illnesses. Some of the conflicting health research you read about out there in the media is paid for by large corporations who want to instill doubt in the public. If people have doubt and are confused, they'll toss up their hands and not know what to do. That's a very normal reaction. If a researcher gets all their funding from the Dairy Council or the Cattlemen's Association, do you think they will say, "Oh yes, a whole food, plant-based diet is so much more heart healthy than a beef-based diet"? There goes their funding and their paycheck. I don't think any of us are surprised that there are unethical people in the world, especially when they get wrapped up with big business and big money. The goal of these large corporations is to make huge profits by bombarding you with fancy ads. That way you'll just give up in confusion and then reach for that next tempting treat. It is very insulting towards us as consumers because they think people can't think for themselves. However, there have been others who have not been in the pocket of big pharma, big chicken, or big beef, and you're going to learn more about these individuals next. There are 6 pioneers in the field of modern medicine that I want to pay homage to. We have much to learn from them, and it's important for you to know about their backgrounds and many medical and scientific accomplishments. These learned individuals have great passion and perseverance for their areas of expertise. They have built tremendous bodies of knowledge about the value of whole food, plant-based diet, which has contributed to saving many people's lives. 2 in particular saved my husband Howard's life. Seriously. These 6 outstanding individuals include Caldwell Esselstyn, Colin Campbell, Dean Ornish, Neil Bernard, Michael Gregard, John McDougall. They all work tirelessly against many obstacles to share their research, which has not been bought and paid for by industry. There are many others, and you can do a search for yourself. I hope you and your family check out each of these highly regarded doctors' websites
and continue to learn. Dr. Esselstyn is the former director of the Cardiovascular Disease Prevention and Reversal Program at the Cleveland Clinic Wellness Institute, author of Reverse and Prevent Heart Disease, and star of the popular Forks Over Knives documentary. He said every 25 seconds, an American has a coronary event, and every minute, an American dies from one. Heart disease is the leading cause of death for both men and women in the United States and other Western countries. For many, death is the first symptom of heart disease. 50% of men and 64% of women who have a fatal heart attack have no previous symptoms. That's scary, like a ticking time bomb. Research shows us that atherosclerosis begins in youth. Fatty streaks and clinically significant lesions in arteries increase rapidly in spread in young people's arteries between the ages of 15 to 34. As Dr. Esselstyn says, in this country, you graduate from high school, you get a diploma, and you also get the foundation for coronary artery disease. Oh, great. But of course, it doesn't have to be that way if young people eat a healthy, whole food, plant-based diet. This man saved our life and our marriage. Really, you can see that we tore his book in half, literally. Thank goodness it was a paperback. Half the book is easy-to-make recipes written by his wife, Anne, and the other half is information about reversing heart disease. I still use the cookbook half. When Howard was first diagnosed after the first, and thankfully only, heart attack, you may recall he was prescribed medicine, Lipitor. He immediately got a horrible side effect where your entire body hurts and you're in agonizing muscle pain. He learned if he continued taking the medication, he could have developed kidney damage. Howard got justifiably very upset, very angry, and anxious. What was he going to do if he couldn't take the medicine? Would he die like his dad? He found out about Dr. Esselstyn's book, which had just been published. Finally, we felt hope for the very first time. Howard was a bit freaked out about what to eat. I'll tell you more about that in the transition sessions. It's more amusing now, looking back on it, but at the time, it was pretty stressful. So I get how hard it is to transition to a whole food, plant-based diet. We obviously got over that and have never looked back. Dr. Esselstyn grew up on a cattle farm. Interesting. In upstate New York, attended public schools, and graduated from Yale University in 1956. An athlete, he competed in the 1956 Summer Olympics in Melbourne, Australia, winning a gold medal in the 8s as a member of the American rowing team. 50 years later, he writes on his website of that experience. I viewed it as a springboard. The experience provided the utmost in confidence, belief in oneself, the rewards of total effort, personal courage, and most importantly, persistence. Esselstyn received his MD from the Case Western Reserve University School of Medicine in 1961, during which time he met his wife Anne. After returning in 1968 from duty as an active surgeon in Vietnam, he began work at the Cleveland Clinic, where he eventually rose to serve as president of the staff and as a member of the Board of Governors. He served as the president of the American Association of Endocrine Surgeons in 1991. Dr. Esselstyn has won many awards and is highly regarded throughout the world. In his book, Reverse and Prevent Heart Disease, he tells the story of how he treated 18 patients with established coronary diseases with a whole food, no oil, and plant-based diet. Not only did the intervention stop the progression of the disease, but 70% of the patients saw an opening of their clogged arteries. He proved that heart disease can be reversed through nutrition. I recommend you buy this book and get ready to have your mind blown. If you have heart disease, you can fix it. Dr. Esselstyn worked with the patients other doctors had given up on, the very hardest cases, with the most severe forms of heart disease, and saved their lives. This man is our hero. I cannot say enough wonderful things about his work. Be sure to check out the Esselstyn's terrific cookbooks, too. The entire extended family makes plant-based cooking easy, fun, and affordable. Colin Campbell is another hero of ours. I've read much of what he has written and have listened to many of his lectures. He is a hard-working, brilliant, courageous man. Today, he and his son Tom, a medical doctor, are continuing this important work together. Colin Campbell is a professor emeritus of nutritional biochemistry. And by the way, emeritus means that you have a distinguished career as a professor and have greatly contributed to your field of study. The focus of his lifetime studies are the effects of nutrition, long-term health, and the causation of cancer. Dr. Campbell has written 3 popular books, The China Study, Whole, and The Low Carb Fraud. Dr. Campbell founded the nonprofit, the T. Colin Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies, which is now headed by his son Tom. The center, in partnership with Cornell University, offers a highly successful online certificate program in plant-based nutrition, which I found both fascinating and useful. Topics in this 3-course series include the state of American health and healthcare, fundamentals of nutrition, and the research findings from the China study. The courses also examine current nutrition research practices. Students will learn to look at nutrition holistically and be able to evaluate with more confidence the many conflicting messages about healthy diets coming at us from the media. It's a great class with lots of online discussion with other students and opportunities to hear from a variety of professors and experts. The nonprofit's mission is to promote optimal nutrition through science-based education, advocacy, and research. By empowering individuals and health professionals, both Drs. Campbell's aim to improve personal, public, and environmental health. Dr. Campbell grew up on a Midwestern dairy farm, really, and trained at Cornell and MIT in nutrition, biochemistry, and toxicology. He has conducted original research both in laboratory experiments and in large-scale human studies. He has received over 70 grant years of peer-reviewed research funding and has served on several grant review panels of multiple funding agencies and has authored over 300 research papers. He has served on many national and international expert committees with mandates to develop food and health policy positions. Dr. Campbell has also won many awards. In short, he is amazing. Dr. Campbell's landmark study is called the China Study. The China Study is the largest comprehensive study of human nutrition ever conducted in the world. The study was composed of 367 variables for each person. Now, a variable is simply an attribute that describes a person, like cholesterol level, blood sugar level, height, weight, or age. This took place in 65 counties in China. The study analyzed the results of 6,500 adults who completed questionnaires and lab tests. Dr. Campbell reported, "When we were done, we had more than 8,000 statistically significant association between lifestyle, diet, and disease variable." A study this size is huge. Major findings indicate that animal protein promotes the growth of cancer. These results substantiate research done back in the lab where Dr. Campbell and his associates, as well as other researchers, could turn cancer cell growth on and off in rats using casein, the protein from cow's milk. A plant-based diet starved the cancer cells. Plant-based food helps protect you from diabetes, obesity, autoimmune diseases, bone, kidney, eye, and brain diseases like Alzheimer's. Essentially, the 8,000 findings indicate that the more plants you eat, the better your health. The more animals you eat, the more chronic disease you will suffer from. Moreover, carbohydrates are not bad, as you'll learn. The whole food, plant-based diet will lead to greater overall health in all areas. Results also show that while pesticides are certainly poisonous and do promote cancer, what you eat can determine if the cancer grows or not. It is well known that we all have inactive cancer cells floating around inside our bodies that are not initiated or promoted. More on that later. I appreciate this concise summary on Wikipedia about the China study. This is how both Dr. Campbells describe their 8 principles of food and health. Number 1. Nutrition represents the combined activities of countless food substances. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So look at what you're eating in a week or a month versus in a single meal. Keep a holistic frame of mind when thinking about health and nutrition. Number 2. Vitamin supplements are not a panacea for good health. Save your money for real food, good food, also known as whole food, plant-based nutrition. There are virtually no nutrients in animal-based foods that are not better provided by plants. We keep saying that plants are powerhouses of nutrition because they are. Genes do not determine diseases on their own. Genes function only by being activated or expressed, and nutrition plays a critical role in determining which genes, good and bad, are expressed. That means we can turn some on or off. Of course, genes are important, but so are our daily lifestyle decisions. Number 5. Nutrition could substantially control the adverse effects of noxious chemicals. Nutrition can help your body encourage or discourage a variety of diseases. Number 6. The same nutrition that prevents disease in its early stages, like a whole food plant-based diet, can also halt or reverse it in its later stages. This is an extremely hopeful principle, and Howard is alive today to tell the tale. Nutrition that is truly beneficial for one chronic disease will support health across the board. Why not take the risk to look and feel generally fantastic? And finally, number 8. Good nutrition creates health in all areas of our existence. All parts are interconnected. In whatever terms you use, we are the culmination of body, mind, and spirit. Another pioneer of modern medicine is Dr. Dean Ornish. Dr. Ornish was the first researcher to successfully reverse heart disease in a study. Currently, Dr. Ornish is a clinical professor of medicine at the University of California in San Francisco and founder of the Preventive Medical Research Institute. He has conducted over 35 years of research that has scientifically proven that lifestyle changes can improve chronic conditions. In an early study, Dr. Ornish found that following his intervention program, none of the patients died. Repeat, no one died, had a transplant, bypass surgery, or angioplasty. Angina, blood pressure, cholesterol, weight, and body fat all improved. Participants also experienced less stress, hostility, and depression. The specific intervention included only 10% plant-based fat, like nuts, a whole food plant-based diet, aerobic exercise, stress management, smoking cessation, and group psychological support. His first book came out in 1995, and he has published ever since. Dr. Ornish, a graduate of Harvard Medical School, has found consistent results with Dr. Esselstyn's work. Both are early adopters and researchers of the whole food plant-based diet regimen to combat heart disease. Aside from his work at the university, Dr. Ornish also runs a comprehensive 9-week lifestyle modification program and publishes his research finding. Dr. Ornish repeatedly says that the hazards of eating meat are understated. And we know why. Not only do we have a long cultural history of eating meat, but the meat industry is richer and more powerful than the vegetable industry. which keeps that tradition of eating meat so ingrained in our minds. The very successful 2011 documentary movie, Forks Over Knives, features the work of Dr. Esselstyn, Ornish, and Campbell. Incidentally, you might remember that former President Bill Clinton adopted the whole food, plant-based diet recommended by Drs. Ornish, Esselstyn, and Campbell back in 2010. This slide is a screenshot of the Physicians Center for Responsible Medicine website, founded and run by Dr. Neil Bernard since 1985. You can see a picture of him in the lower left corner. Dr. Bernard runs this comprehensive and well-organized organization, which promotes whole food, plant-based vegan diets. The Physicians Committee combines the expertise of more than 12,000 physicians and the dedicated actions of 150,000 members across the United States and around the world. This comprehensive site is excellent and offers you a lot of information and resources about becoming and staying responsibly healthy. I recommend you study the PCRM site. Dr. Michael Greger is another hard-working, passionate physician who works diligently to promote only science-based medical information on his various sites. He reads every English language nutrition journal in the world and reports on the latest findings. Dr. Greger is a physician, author, and internationally recognized speaker on a number of important public health issues. Do you happen to remember back in 1996 when Oprah said on TV that she wouldn't eat burgers and got in trouble? Dr. Greger debated the National Cattlemen's Beef Association director before the FDA. He was invited as an expert witness to defend Oprah Winfrey in the infamous meat defamation trial. Dr. Greger has also created the Atkins Exposed website to debunk the Atkins diet, and runs the Nutrition Facts website, which is the first science-based, non-commercial website to provide free daily videos and articles on the latest discoveries in nutrition. These videos are outstanding. Each is about 2 to 3 minutes long, and you can download the transcript as well. They're short and to the point. Check them out. Dr. Greger also coordinates the Mad Cow Disease website for the Organic Consumers Association. The last doctor we'll discuss is Dr. John McDougall. He has an interesting story. He writes, "My medical education began in October of 1965 at age 18 when I suffered a massive stroke that left me completely paralyzed on the left side of my body for 2 weeks. And I remain noticeably physically weakened 44 years later. This was my first real contact with the business of medicine, and without this opportunity, I would never become a physician." And just as a refresher, you see here a graphic with the 4 warning signs for stroke. The acronym is FAST. F is for face, is one side droopy. A is for arms, is one side weak. S is for speech, is it slurred? And T is for time. Time is of the essence because brain damage can occur. Call 911 if you think someone's having a stroke. However, Dr. McDougall's real education began as a young doctor at the Hamakua sugar plantation in Hawaii from 1973 to 1976. His elderly patients had immigrated to Hawaii from China, Japan, Korea, and the Philippines, where rice was the main food. They brought their culture and their food choices with them to Hawaii. Their children, tempted by Western foods, slowly changed. The third generation had essentially given up rice and vegetables for meat, dairy, and junk. For all 3 generations, their health reflected their diet. The first generation of immigrants were trim, active, and medication-free into their 90s. They had no diabetes, heart disease, arthritis, or cancers of the breast, prostate, or colon. Their children became a little sicker and a little fatter. And most of their grandchildren had lost all of their immunity to obesity and common diseases. In every way of appearance and health, they were full-fledged Americans. What a remarkable experience to see 3 generations of lifestyle choices all at one time. Dr. McDougall is the author of several well-researched books about the health advantages of whole food, plant-based vegan diets, and endorsed whole food, plant-based vegan diets back in 1983.
The 6 pioneering physicians, Dr. Esselstyn, Campbell, Ornish, Barnard, Greger, and McDougall, that we've just discussed, have changed the way many physicians now treat heart diseases and other chronic diseases. Today, there's many other physicians and researchers who stand on their great shoulders. Unfortunately, many other physicians still have a lot to learn. These 6 pioneers, their work is game-changing. It's crystal clear that our nutrition is a vital element of our radiant health and vitality. Let's step out into the world now and see what happens in other countries and continue to talk about plant-based nutrition and heart disease.
Continuing in our conversation about various cultures, nutrition, and heart disease around the world, the blue zones are special places. Special regions in the world where the entire community lives longer and healthier than expected. The blue zones are located specifically in Okinawa, Japan, Loma Linda, California, the Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica, and Sardinia, Italy. Dan Buettner, a researcher and explorer from the National Geographic, wrote a book called The Blue Zones. In the book, he identified and wrote about these 4 unique communities. Some of the common denominators to these special blue zones are a combination of, number 1, family, putting your family ahead of other concerns, less or no smoking, and mostly vegetarianism. Except for the Sardinian diet, who ate sardines, the majority of food consumed is derived from plants. This includes a lot of legumes, peas, lentils, and beans are commonly consumed on a regular basis. Social engagement, people of all ages are socially active and integrated into their community. They enjoy a sense of purpose and meaning in their lives. And lastly, constant, moderate physical activity. Movement is an important part of life in the blue zones. People are simply active all the time, all throughout their life. Clearly, the simple lifestyle of these communities enables people to live long and happy lives. Buettner claims from his research that our genes dictate only about 25% of our life, while our lifestyle influences about 75%. Read the book and hear for yourself the marvelous stories of healthy, happy older people across the globe. Does this remind you of what Dr. McDougall said about his older patients in Hawaii? What Dr. Campbell found in China and the other doctors found in their research and practice? Unfortunately, globally, meat consumption has doubled since 1960 because traditional plant-based cultures like China, South Korea, and Vietnam have increased their meat consumption so much. Well, we have too. Americans consume 67% more fat, 39% more sugar, and 41% more meat in the year 2000 than in the year 1950. As a nation, we eat almost 25% more calories now than we did just in 1970. Disease rates follow these increases of meat consumption. The U.S. is the number 2 highest meat-consuming country in the world, while China is now number 1. Poultry consumption in the U.S. is up over 400% in the past 50 years. These animal-based diets are making people all over the world sick, and it's so unnecessary. Let's shift our focus to prescription medications now and talk about diet and drugs. Are medications part of the formula to escape heart diseases? Well, they may, and they may not. While lipid-lowering medications like Lipitor do offer 30% fewer new heart attacks 30% fewer heart attack deaths, and 30% interventions, I ask you, what about the other 70%? What about the cost and the hassle? What about the adverse reactions and side effects? People like my husband simply can't take most prescription medications because he is susceptible to their side effects. The FDA has issued warnings on side effects from Lipitor that include memory loss, confusion, an increase in blood sugar, hello, that's diabetes, less energy, and more fatigue, especially for women. As of 2012, 23% of Americans aged 40 and older took cholesterol-lowering drugs, which has now been found to increase your risk for type 2 diabetes by 46%. That's crazy. Prescription drugs kill over 100,000 people every year from side effects and adverse drug reactions. That's not including overdoses, medication errors, or medication drug abuse. 100,000 people are dying unnecessarily each year because of their prescribed medication. Instead, as the good doctors we mentioned a few slides ago, eat your medicine. Avoid oil, fish, fowl, meat, eggs, and dairy. Include grains, legumes, lentils, vegetables, and fruit. Your plant-based diet should only contain about 0 to 10% based fat, and you must include exercise, smoking cessation, little or no alcohol, and stress reduction. The evidence all points to eliminating heart disease by controlling cholesterol, saturated fat, not smoking, reducing high levels of stress, and reducing high blood pressure. There is a revealing study that showed us that by giving vegetarians meat once a day for 1 month, it increased their cholesterol 20%. The good news is it went right back down when they stopped eating the meat. Now, remember that everyone has a different starting point for cholesterol dependent upon their genetic makeup. You might have a starting point of 100, so 20% increase would take you to 120. While if my starting point is 300, don't worry, it isn't, my cholesterol would jump 20% to 360. Just remember that eating animals raises your cholesterol, while not eating animals lowers your cholesterol. Eating healthy, safe food. It's not hard. Just eating 1 cup of oatmeal's worth of fiber a day extend women's life the same as jogging 4 hours per week. Eating 2 handfuls of nuts per week extends women's life the same as jogging 4 hours per week. Studying an estimated 200,000 people in the U.S. and China over the past 12 years, Dr. Shuaoshu at Vanderbilt said, "The evidence is quite strong that peanuts are beneficial to heart health." Of course, be mindful that some people are allergic to peanuts, but many other nuts are beneficial too. On the flip side, eating 1 egg a day cuts a woman's life short as much as smoking 5 cigarettes a day for 15 years. Well, along with diet and drugs, there is surgery. Surgery is often medically necessary, yet sometimes it can be prevented by lifestyle choices. A healthy diet and lifestyle can reduce your need for surgery later on. Surgery is expensive, painful, and does not remove the cause of the problem. It can take a while for you to recuperate from surgery too. During or as an effect of heart surgery, you can suffer from a heart attack, a stroke, or even die. Surgery is not risk-free. Changing your lifestyle, specifically your diet, is safer, less expensive, and ultimately easier in the long run because it's the most effective. Besides, wouldn't you rather feel good all over and have all sorts of other worrisome medical conditions relieved if you could? If you just take a pill or have surgery and continue with poor lifestyle habits, all those worrisome conditions will still be there, lurking in the background, and just getting worse. Fiber is the most important protective factor against heart disease. Plant-based diets simply work for our optimal health, and as a bonus, they're delicious, easy to prepare, and inexpensive. We'll talk more about that in other presentations. Fiber is only found in plants, while cholesterol is only found in animals, plus animal products are full of saturated fat. The really bad cholesterol, the LDL type, is formed from trans fats, saturated fats, and dietary cholesterol found in all animal-based foods. Well, speaking of heart diseases and stroke, here's a frightening fact to know and tell. Strokes in pregnant women are increasing. This used to be very rare, and it's certainly very scary for the entire family. Dr. Lisa Leffert at Massachusetts General Hospital attributes this to obesity, inactivity in women of childbearing age, and increased rates of hypertension, or high blood pressure. Doctors across the United States have seen a 50 to 60% increase from the mid-90s to the mid-2000s. That's a lot. It's essential for women who want to become pregnant to reduce their weight, get plenty of exercise, and be thoroughly checked by their health care providers. Eating a potassium-rich diet is essential because potassium lowers blood pressure. Top sources of potassium are tomatoes, oranges, leafy greens, beans, and dates. Supplements are not advised. A varied diet is your best bet. We'll discuss that more fully in later presentations. A new mother's stroke, potential lifelong disability, or death affects entire families. If you have a friend or loved one considering pregnancy, please follow up with that person if you have any concerns at all. Now let's specifically talk about lowering our blood pressure, which is a goal for many of us. Then we'll talk about animal dairy milk and conclude our conversation. Since the 1920s, researchers have known that people who eat a plant-based diet have lower blood pressure. Dr. McDougall took 500 patients who ate meat and put them on a plant-based diet. In 11 days, their blood pressure was down 6%. In just 11 days. Eating a plant-based diet makes the blood less thick. It's more fluid, like water, which reduces the pressure. Plant-based diets are high in potassium, which helps lower blood pressure. Many people are able to eliminate some medications with a healthy, whole food, plant-based diet. A healthy plant-based diet and exercise can control blood pressure, as can relaxation exercises like meditation or yoga. The evidence is in and keeps coming in. Really, there is so much new, exciting scientific research coming in every day about how whole food, plant-based diets prevent and reverse heart disease, as well as a host of other chronic diseases.
We can create our very own blue zone in our own family and community. We can recreate a little world of our own where we put our family ahead of other concerns, don't smoke, eat plants, are socially engaged, enjoy a sense of purpose, and partake in constant, moderate activity every single day. If we do that, we won't need as many or any prescriptions. We'll naturally lose weight and enjoy healthy lab test results. Not only do researchers and physicians see great results with healthy plant-based lifestyles, but traditional communities across the globe teach us the same thing. Our last section covers the standard American diet. Now remember, we call that SAD, in comparison with whole food, plant-based nutrition. Then we summarize and close the session. And after the session, as I mentioned before, do go back to those questions for reflection and discussion. You may want to write in your notebook or simply talk with each other. Either way, do actively think about them as you take the risk of feeling fabulous.
This slide shows us the monochromatic, non-colorful, boring, beige, standard American diet, shortened to SAD because it is so very sad. Too many people are sick, tired, miserable, and die too soon because they eat this sad diet. Meat, dairy, and all animal proteins are full of saturated fats, which lead to disease and obesity. Did you know there is not a physical need or requirement for saturated fat? It's not like vitamin C, where if you don't get enough, you contract scurvy and get really sick. We don't need animal-based saturated fat, like this bowl of pork lard, to be healthy. There are plant-based sources of fat, such as nuts, seed, avocados, as well as others we'll talk about in the proteins, sugar, salt, and fat presentation. To make matters worse, people who eat a heavy meat and cheese diet often do not eat a lot of vegetables and fruit. This makes it even worse because they're not getting the protective qualities found in plants. Ask yourself, does my food have a face? If it does, and your goal is to be serious about becoming and staying healthy, skip that face on your plate. Let's talk about the dangers of dairy milk and cheese for a minute. Cheese, really, oh my gosh, people love their cheese. And by the way, if you can't live without cheese, try safe, non-dairy cheese made from almonds, soy, or rice. There are so many varieties to choose from, and they're safe to eat on your veggie pizza. There are a number of international studies where researchers from around the world have investigated animal dairy products and your health. Here are some of the major findings. High rates of dairy consumption is linked to higher rates of prostate cancer. Higher rates for ovarian cancer. Dairy milk is found to trigger type 1 diabetes. There are higher rates of multiple sclerosis among animal eaters. Interesting and horrible to note that in one study, patients with MS who ate on average more than 20 grams of saturated fat per day, 80% of those people in the study died. There's a strong positive association between cow's milk and MS. Milk protein, called casein, promotes cancer initiated by a carcinogen. These results were found in experimental animal studies dating back to the 1960s. Researchers were able to turn on and off cancer cell growth in rats fed or not fed casein. Dairy milk promotes higher cholesterol levels due to high levels of saturated fat, and it also promotes higher levels of atherosclerosis or plugging of your arteries. Animal dairy is also inflammatory, which negatively impacts aging, is linked to acne, constipation, ear infections, and autoimmune disorders. Moreover, many people can't digest it, they can't tolerate the lactose, or they're allergic to it. Osteoporosis is a condition where bones are weakened and break easily. The big surprise is that dairy milk impacts osteoporosis by leaching out the calcium in our bones. Who knew? The milk industry, with their very cool ads, doesn't want us to know any of this either. As dairy, animal protein, and calcium consumption goes up, so does risk for osteoporosis and bone fractures. The calcium is leached out of the bones and then measured in the urine. The milk industry would have us believe otherwise, but I trust a number of scientists across the globe who have investigated the effects of dairy milk on humans versus large profit-driven corporations. In 87 surveys in 33 countries, bone density fracture rates decrease as the ratio of plant-based foods increase. The evidence is clear. Eat more plants, have less risk. Or eat more animals, have more risk. Add regular exercise, which clearly keeps our bones strong, and you're good to go. You'll get lots of calcium from broccoli, beans, leafy green vegetables, almonds, soy milk, and tofu. Eating more plants means less calcium is lost, and thus you'll have stronger bones. Milk is perfectly designed to nourish baby cows. Cow's milk is breast milk for baby cows. Think about it. We are ingesting nourishment for a 1,200-pound animal. Does that even make sense? We're so used to eating dairy milk cheese and using milk as we bake and cook that it doesn't occur to us to think outside that box. Now, don't feel bad. We just didn't think about it. Well, now you will. Osteoporosis is a huge risk for older individuals due to falls and fractures. As you know, when someone falls and breaks their hip, their whole world can change. My mother-in-law was tragically debilitated after she broke her hip and was bedridden for years. While the age group of 65 and older are only about 13% of our population, they account for 75% of deaths from falls. 40% of older people fall at least once a year. This is very serious business. We all need to keep our bones healthy and strong, as well as our balance and wits about us. Bone density and strength is a serious concern for every family member. A whole food, plant-based diet is high in fiber, low in saturated fats and cholesterol. A lot of people don't know, or they just forget, that the only foods with cholesterol are animal-based. The only way we can ingest cholesterol is by eating meat, cheese, eggs, and seafood. Our bodies manufacture cholesterol all by itself because we need some, but dietary cholesterol is only found in food that comes from animals. By eating only plants, we're not adding to our body's cholesterol level. This is a good thing. Do you see the plate on the right? The Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine calls this the power plate. You will notice it is divided between fruits, vegetables, grains, and legumes. This is all we need for robust health and vitality. We'll discuss optimal diets, what they are, and how to transition to a whole food, plant-based diet, the menus and shopping lists later in other sessions. Suffice it to say right now that high levels of cholesterol, high blood pressure, atherosclerosis, stress, obesity, and smoking all contribute to heart disease and other debilitating chronic diseases. An animal-based diet is much to blame for our many health problems. That's why it's so sad. We've now completed our overview of the nutritional implications of heart disease, so we'll now conclude this session. There's a few takeaway points to remember and integrate into your daily lives. In conclusion and to summarize, we all make choices every single day. We all can improve our health. I hope you choose to help yourself and those you care about. Your doctor may support you or may not. It took Howard a long time to find a cardiologist who was willing to work with him when he refused to take statins. But guess what? It worked, and the new doctor was able to share Howard's success with other patients. Do what is right for you and your loved ones. Take the risk of feeling fabulous. Internationally, the evidence is clear. The standard American diet is not health promoting, while the whole food, plant-based diet is healthy, inexpensive, and delicious. It's been 10 years for us. We could never go back. Both my husband and I feel great. I'm at my slimmest without even trying, never get sick, have tons of energy, and sleep wonderfully. The benefits of a plant-based diet include lower cholesterol, blood pressure, and blood sugar, the reversal or prevention of heart disease and diabetes, a longer, healthier life, healthier weight for life, which we talk about in the next presentation, a lower risk for developing some cancers, which we also talk about, a lower risk for developing diabetes, which we talk about in the next presentation, and increasing the chances of slowing down the progression of certain types of cancer. You may take fewer medications with a plant-based diet. You'll have better digestion, clearer skin, better sleep, and even spend less money on food. This is the first in a series of presentations. We'll continue to talk about the many important reasons to consider a whole food, plant-based diet during all the different sessions. Think about it. Talk it over. Look up the doctors and organizations I mentioned. Find people in your life who will support you as you integrate this knowledge into your daily life. Finally, enjoy the learning process and feel proud of yourself that you're taking some control back. You can get your health back. You can reverse and prevent many chronic diseases. Thank you so much for joining me today. Our next presentation is about obesity and diabetes. My hope is that you and your family will thrive on this journey towards good health and happiness. Thank you.